Hey everyone. So today we are going to be creating your basic Xactimate estimate for roofing. And so at this point, I already have um, the job profile pulled up, created a name for it. If you guys do not know how I got here, I can create a different video explaining on how you can get to this point. But for the sake of the video today, we are just going to jump straight to it. And so ideally when you get to this page, you start out at the claim info. It's going to ask you what the tax, like for the price list. You choose what city you're in, and then what the tax jurisdiction is for that city. And you can find all that out by going on Google and searching like, oh, what is the tax jurisdiction for Forest Lake, St. Paul? And once you have that, then you just choose the correct one. And then I typically choose structure and CLN. That's what I choose to do. And then once you click next, please fill in the insured info. For today's example, I'm using test one as the name. And you put in the street address, city, state, and zip code. And then the estimator is you. What type of loss it is, and the deductible. That way, when you actually generate the final draft, all these information gets pulled up, and it actually makes it look a bit nicer. And so I do recommend that you fill this part out. Uh, so like what I mentioned earlier about the price list, if you click on parameters here, it's going to take you to show you what price list you're using for 1 month and the year. So I'm using February 2025, and this is the tax jurisdiction for the city of Forest Lake. Structural and cleaning is structural slash CLN, which is cleaning. So once you're done with that, you click on estimate. We're not going to do sketching. Um, you might know or you may not know, if you are a level 1 Xactimate certified, then you do know how to sketch. But for if you don't know but you still want to learn how to do how to write this properly, don't worry about the sketching. Just click onto estimate items. So when you do click onto estimate items, you're given some photos, and these photos are references to kind of like the trades that you're wanting to work on, that is on the claim or that has damage on it. And it's to help guide and navigate you to those specific items that um, it's going to be most true or correct for what you need. So for today, we're doing roofing. So roof is right here. If you click on it, you can hover the mouse key over it, the arrow key over it, and it's gonna show you roofing. If you can click on them, right? So I'm gonna click on the shingles, and it's gonna show up what type of like topic you're talking about. We you know Most majority of the roofs are asphalt shingles, so you would click on that. It's gonna show you all the line items for it for shingles. Now there's felt, there's your drip edge, flashing, sheathing, vents, and pretty much your all the main components to the roof. So let's say that you really don't know anything and you want to use the photos for your guide. Feel free to use it. I do recommend it. It's good. It's a tool. That's why it's there. In the case that you don't want to do that and you're used to like searching it and you kind of have an idea of what you're doing, then go ahead and use the search bar. For today's example, I will be using the search bar because I'm used to that and I already have experience in exactly what I need. It doesn't mean that I still don't use this. I use this sometimes, when I want to, just so that I still have like a good reference to uh, using this navigation. So X out of that. So ideally, when you do roofing line items, it's kind of like you think of the whole process. Like when you're going to replace a roof, what's the first thing that you need to do to the old materials, right? You would do a tear off. So what they have is tear off. Well, if that's not showing, we do haul. Yep. So in depending on like the type of like shingle that you're dealing with, whether it's a 3-tab or laminated shingles, then you would choose the correct line items for the materials that you had to that you're working with. So for today's example, let's say that the roof that you're writing for is has 3-tab shingles on. So I would choose tear off, haul, and dispose of comp shingles dash 3 tabs like that. And then I right away, if you're taking shingles off, you need to put shingles on. So I would do your 3-tab shingles um, to replace and put it back on the new shingles. So I use this line item that says without felt, and the reason why I use it is because sometimes the felt that is on this line item is not entirely correct. So my recommendation is to use without felt, but it's up to you whether you want to use it. I know that sometimes the insurance they use this one, or not sometimes, majority of the time they do use it because it's a bit easier. But my recommendation is do this, even if you had to like do it the hard way, it's more accurate. So I'm gonna go with this. Um, so we have that. There's 2 line items that got generated. I'm gonna go over this later once I generate all the line items. Then I can explain what this means. I mean, maybe if you already know, that's good. But for the people that don't know, I I can explain it. Next, we have felt, 15 pounds. Oh, I mean, so there's a 30-pound felt, 15 pound. There was a 30 pound felt. I mean, ideally, you can do the 30 pound if you know that the 30-pound felt is pre-existing on the roof. But in this case, we always assume that um, it's a 15 pounds because that's the like the most generic thing that is on every roof. So 15 pounds, and then depending on what region and what state you're in, you may or may not add ice and water barrier on. The reason is because here in Minnesota, I live in Minnesota. Here in Minnesota, we have with the winter, so obviously you need the ice and water barrier to help run along the eaves and valleys for on your roof. And if you don't have that, winter comes, it may leak. But if you live in Florida, they don't require you to have ice and water barrier because it's warm all year long. So you don't need that. Again, depending on which region, which state you're in, then you don't need that line item. I'm gonna add it based off of where I live, so that's why we have the ice and water barrier. Next, we have drip edge. Drip edge. There's 2 of them. If you have copper, sure, go ahead and add copper. But most of the time, it's just going to be your drip edge or drip edge slash gutter apron. When we do roof builds, we always get rid of the gutter apron and replace it with new gutter apron. So I would use this one because that's just what we do. We remove the old stuff, we replace it with the new things. But just depending on what you do, if you guys only replace the drip edge, then this is what I recommend. But I would use this one and do the work as what is written on the paperwork. Let's do turtle vents. Depending on what type of ventilation system they have, if they have turtle vents, if they have metal, if they have plastic, um, if they have ridge vents, I would put on ridge vents. You could type it out too. Ridge vents. Cannot spell. Continuous ridge vents, aluminum, and then your the off ridge. Continuous. This is what I would use. Continuous ridge vent because it's continuous. It's on the top. It's depending on how long it is, then that's what I would. That's the line item I use. and you would just put the amount of linear footage of it. In this example, we're just going to use your turtle vents. That way, it's a bit simpler. But if you do have any questions about these things, just put on, your questions, comments in the comments area. Turtle vents, metal. Every house should have an exhaust vent if they have uh, for your kitchen. So right here, 6 and 4. 4 is the small one. The 6 inch is the big one. So ideally, they have this. Most of the house have they have the small one, and then now we have the ridge. So since we're working with 3 tabs, you would want to go for the hips and ridge caps cut from 3 tabs. What that means is that from the 3 tab shingles, you can cut them into like pieces, like into 3 piece to put it as use it as the ridge caps. So that's what cut from 3 tabs, and that's the correct line item for this. If you have laminated or if you have um, the high profile type of ridge, then you got to make sure that you type that in. So just for the sake of me speaking about it, high profile. It says right there, high profile comp shingles. Let's do comp ridge. So if you have the laminated, I would use the standard profile comp shingles for 3 tabs. If you have high profile, this is the line item. If you have impact resistant, I would use that one. And this is like where your class 3, class 4 shingles, your armor shake shingles, using these type of ridge caps, then that's the correct line items for it. So just kind of like depending on what you have, then just make sure you choose the correct ones. And again, feel free to reference back to this point. If you can't find it, make sure that you just type in like what I type, comp ridge cap, and then this should all pop up. Next, we have, let's say the house is like, it's not a difficult house, but it's 2 stories with 2 slopes. Then you have to account for the additional 2 story or greater. And if it's like steep, if it's steep, oh, that's not gonna show. Cannot spell. Additional. If it's, if you know your steepness, if it's a 712, meaning that it's steep but not that steep, 712 to 912, then use this line item. If it's 1012 to 1212, then use this one. But anything greater than 1212, whether you're talking about like 32 or 6012, then this is as far as they'll go. So for today's example, I'm just going to use 10 to 1212. So let's see, do we have everything? We have felt. Oh, we forgot starter. So do not forget your starter. I always use the universal starter course. And then we're going to leave that for now. So I think that's it. Tear off, replace, felt, ice water, trip edge, rift vent, exhaust, hips, and then your starter. And then if there's any additional like vents or like the power attic vents, that got approved that you want to add on to there, then yeah, go ahead and add that on. But for today, we're not gonna do that because again, this is your basic Xactimate estimate. So let's see here. I believe that should be it. So at this point, you kind of like want to like just kind of reorganize these things. I kind of want to put like shingles with shingles, roofing felt, drip edge, roof vent, and then shingles with shingles. That way, when I look at all the shingles, everything is there. So going back to like the beginning, the tear off and the 2 shingle line items. So this one says to remove it. And how do I know that? I know that because on the action category here, it's a minus. So minus means that it's to remove. Plus means that it's to add onto the roof. If you have an and sign, it stands for remove and replace. So, uh, so these two items are pretty much the same thing. As you can see, the unit price, it's the same thing. So you can't have two of the same things on there together. Ideally, you want to get rid of this one because the insurance, they tend to use the tear off line item most commonly. So I want to replicate my estimate to be very similar to how the insurance they have theirs because I don't want them to get any confusion into like looking at mine and then referencing back to theirs, and it's gonna look different, and it's gonna make the whole process more difficult. So the closer yours look to like theirs, then the easier um, the whole process would be. And again, just add any additional items that you feel that they had missed. That way, it's not such a big thing, and they will notice like what is different about it. So again, going back to the topic of this is your basic rough estimate. We have tear off, we have add on, we have starter, hips and ridge, felt, ice and water, drip edge, roof vent, exhaust cap, and your additional 2-story, your additional steepness. Now for the numbers, um, you could get the numbers from going out onto the roof and measuring yourself, or you can get it from ordering a satellite view from EagleView or other softwares such as Roofer. And it's up to you on how you want to do it. I usually do it, from one of the two softwares that I just mentioned. And from there, from this point on, you just plug things in. So let's just do 15, 16.67. I already know these numbers. Oh, I guess there. Let's do 15. Oh, I thought it auto calculated for you, but let's just do sure. And then 17, your starter course is 205. Now the starter, the reason why I'm putting 205, like I'm saying that the starter is gonna go all around. So that's the number that I'm gonna use, and it's up to you on how you follow with the manufacturer's installation guide. If you don't, then you just want to make sure that you use the correct number to put it along the eaves. But if you are following the guide, then that's my recommendation, and that's what I'm going to use. For ridge caps, 25, felt, these are just numbers I'm throwing in. It's not accurate. I would follow what's written on the EcoView or roof report. 15, 11, 4. This is going to be the same because drip edge and gutter aprons go along the whole perimeter of the roof. So of course it's going to be the same number as starter. Um, so that's why it's 205. 5, 2, and then this is going to be the same squares as the tear off. Additional steep roof. 15 and 15. So yeah, so this is how I would write my roof estimate. And then if you wanted to, you can always add permits to it. But you might not know the pricing for it yet because, if this is our initial estimate that we're sending into the insurance, then we don't know the price of it yet because we still have to wait for their approval. But if you already know it and you're sending this in, then I would put the unit the price of it down and send it in. I do have debris removal here. In the case that you have other trades, they will add a dumpster. Now, dumpster, you just type in dump and then you choose the 1 to 3 tons. That should pretty much cover all your other trades. And if it's your rough, you typically don't need the dumpster because the tariff is already including the dumpster. That's why it says haul and dispose of comp. So that's why you don't need the dumpster, because this is enough to pay for your dumpster. So if this is pretty much it. If you have any questions, any concerns, if you have any disagreements about this estimate or any more questions about certain line items, please feel free to drop your questions onto the comment section. I would love to, share ideas. I would love to go more in depth or details about it. Um, if you disagree with anything, again, I love to discuss about it. We may have different uh, ideas on who is closer to the the truth or the estimate, uh, and we can talk more about that. So, again, thank you for watching. I hope you can subscribe and follow me for more. I plan on having more videos. That way, everyone can succeed, everyone can learn, and just grow more and have a successful business. So, thank you for watching. Have a good day.